Hi everybody, I'm Zach and I like movies, and I'm here to give a review for A Different Man. This is a film from last year from Aaron Schimberg that just recently got put on streaming on Max very recently, and it stars Sebastian Stan as Edward. He is a very withdrawn man due to his condition of neurofibromatosis. This is a condition where he builds up these like non-cancerous tumors under his skin and nerves, and like it sort of comes out in these like big bulbous facial disfigurement. So he's very withdrawn and very socially awkward. He obviously feels very looked at and ogled and mocked and not taken seriously. He's trying to get acting gigs, but that's going nowhere fast. Only thing of note that he's able to do is like play play a role in like these kind of office PSAs of like, hey, be nice. Hey, be nice to people in the office with face disfigurements kind of thing. But he's like he kind of tries to hit it off with a new neighbor named Ingrid, played by the great Renate Reisnve, who is a Norwegian actress, a dynamite actress that you might remember from 2022's, I believe, 2022's The Worst Person in the World, which is a great movie. You have not seen that, and Edward, he undergoes this like very experimental medical treatment where he sort of has his disfigurement cured, and he sort of just assumes with a new face, a new identity. He kind of says Edward is dead, and he goes by Guy Moratz. And then sometime later, he finds that Ingrid is making an off-Broadway play called Edward, which is based on him and kind of her relationship with him, well, her friendship with him. And he decides, well, I have to play this role. I was literally born for this role because it's him. And then, as they're working on the play, in comes out of left field Oswald, who's played by Adam Pearson, who's an actor who actually has neurofibromatosis. Like, he has this big head, and he is just completely. He is everything that Edward was not. He is completely self-confident. He has swagger. He has charisma. Every room he walks in, he just lights up. And Edward is just like constantly, just silently seething every time he looks at this man, and constantly, completely mad and furious, and just completely beaten down by this great cosmic joke that the universe is playing on him. This is a fantastic movie. I loved this. I was so fascinated by it, really just from this premise alone of like, I've seen this be a lot of comparisons with The Substance, which is another movie that deal with another one of this like kind of low key kind of sci-fi movie that also kind of body horror-ish movie that deals a lot with like a self-image and and the perception from others and perception of yourself, and self-hatred, but taking it from a much different angle. Like, The Substance is it's very French extreme. It's incredibly over the top and so sickeningly squishy. But A Different Man, feels a little bit like a Charlie Kaufman story, where especially in like the tone it strikes, because it feels a little bit more like if you listen, like the opening scene especially, like it really sets its tone very well. It's a very delicate kind of like melancholic, but also a little like angry. The score, which, my God, the score is amazing in this. The score, it has these opening notes of like it's melancholic and very sad. Very sad of the world, sad of your own fate, your own body, and your own the own image of yourself. but then it sort of like fluctuates into this like a sort of darker, feels anger at yourself, anger lashing out at other people, and you see a lot of like the way that Sebastian Stan carries himself in this film. He is marvelous in this. Like, I think he's had some of the most he's used his Marvel his like MCU cred very wisely. He's been getting a couple of like other like indie films produced, kind of like what Adam Driver did like post Star Wars, of just like getting like all these interesting movies. Like there was that movie Fresh, but this I think is probably like Fresh, and I think he also The Apprentice, where he played Trump. But this one, I think this is hands down the best I've ever seen him. He's so like right down to his body language. Even when he's like whether he's like Edward or Guy, he still maintains this very like withdrawn in kind of like slumped over, again very drawn in body language. He's like kind of he mostly shambles around all the time, even when he looks like Sebastian Stan, and it feels so rewarding. Like, and like he sort of tries to build some more confidence in how he and how he tries performing as Edward on the play, because like he sort of puts on this. He was gifted this like old cast mask bust thing from the doctor that did his treatment, and he sort of wears this mask, and it's interesting how he is Edward, but he also has to play like a version of Edward. Like he has to keep performing as Edward to play himself, and I think it really digs into that interest, and like the movie really digs into that interesting idea of like performance, and how you self-perception and how you are perceived, in terms of like act, in terms of like being as an actor, but also like how you are as like a person. And I think it's really interesting the way that like all the people around Edward are like how they behave, both around, like not just like towards and at him, but also around him. Like this is set in New York. It's a great New York movie because this movie is just littered with like a bunch of like very memorable weirdos. Like there's like some raggedy homeless guy who's like just trying to get to New Jersey, and he's just like rambling weirdly, and then like people like when he and Ingrid are kind of having a lunch together at this I want to say it's like a pizza place. It holds on this shot of the two of them just sitting, and like in the background you see people just walking by, and they keep like doing a second go around just to see his face, and like kind of gawk at him. And then there's one guy who just walks up and just like he just says this at the window. and they're so weird, and it's weird and awkward and off-putting, but it's really funny every time. And also Ingrid herself is a really interesting character. She's not just performed wonderfully. All the performances here are great, but like Renate is so so interesting, because she I think in a lesser movie that she would just kind of be like the love interest, the girl who's just kind of like, yeah, she has a plot, but she's not like she doesn't have much dimension to her. No, Ingrid has more layers to her than you might initially think. Like, yeah, she's like sort of drawn to Edward, and like she kind of like there's hints you can pick up on with like how they sort of talk and sort of coexist with each other. She sort of wants to ask about his disfigurement, but he doesn't know where to begin. And when she's like sort of like working on the process of the play, you sort of get the feeling that like, is she exploiting Edward, or is she like sort of like is she like appropriating his story in a way, or is she just kind of doing that thing that artists do, is where you like take things out of your life and just kind of put them into your art. And also, is like Edward again, is Edward himself as Guy having this having sort of being exploited in his own way, because this is about a man with a face disfigurement, but he doesn't have a disfigurement anymore. And and then therein lies Adam Pearson as Oswald, who is honestly, this man is an actor. He's fantastic. Like, and it's so cool that Adam is able to like play this kind of role, because you might have actually seen him before in a 2014 movie called Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson, where he's obviously like played always he's very downtrodden, very very like sort of weary with the world and all that, but like here he's like being able to play against type. He's able to play more of the person that he actually is. If you watch him in interviews, he's very charming. He's funny. He's insanely likable, and he's very aware of himself. And that's sort of and that is like the real difference between who Oswald was and who Edward was. Edward was always and you could sort of like say read Edward as like, oh, he society, so that like the world around him sort of like looked at him one way, and he sort of just over time became that, because he wasn't born with this. He wasn't born with the condition, but Oswald on the other hand, like the real Adam Pearson, he really like just kind of like eventually embraced who he was, and just kind of it was all just self-confidence, and he's so charming, he's so rakish, he lights up a room, he's so wonderful. And so like, especially like the latter like third of the movie, yeah, you have Sebastian Stan, who has like this permanent like sad scowl on his face, because he's gorgeous, but he's miserable because he has no swag. And he looks at this guy who like he feels like kind of just kind of like is living the life he's always wanted. And there's even a way that you can see Oswald like, hey, is Oswald being manipulative? Because he's like he's charming and nice, and he does like support a guy and all that, but like he also does kind of worm his way into his life, and just kind of worms his way into his role in the play and all that. And I like that it's like doesn't really give any of the three leads this like interesting triangle between them. It doesn't really like give any of them like any tidy conclusions. There's always like some layer to pick up on, whether it's like with like Edward between Edward and Ingrid, or the way that like Ingrid and Oswald bounce off of each other so well, and the way that Ingrid is both interested and drawn to Edward, or Guy trying to be Edward, but also how Oswald is. And even the tension between the tension that Guy has with Oswald, it's and the further on that goes, like you see, he has this like just complete and utter identity crisis, and it's fascinating. I was captivated the entire time. It's weird, and it's a delicate balancing act, and honestly, Schimberg pulls it off wonderfully. This is a really smart script that I just think it's a well thought out one. Like it's just so cool to see a movie about a disabled character that really digs into the sociological and psychological aspects of having that disability, is in conversation with how best to represent that disability in art, and whether it's exploitative in some way. And it does all of that very well. I don't want to say delicately, because this is very tricky subject matter, but it's so like basically the Elephant Man story via like this like Twilight Zone episode, tragic rom-coms, dark psychological character study. That sounds like it should be a kind of a mess, but it works. It works so well, and on top of all of that, it's shot wonderfully. It has this fantastic grainy 16 millimeter photography, wonderful fantastic camera work. Again, the jazz score is one. It has this really weird jazzy score that it's so weird, and like I really need to keep listening to it. It's one of my favorites of the year, and like I said, every single performance is great, from Sebastian Stan, Renate Reisnve, Adam Pearson. My God, the Oscar nominations are tomorrow. At the time of my recording, it's a crime that Adam Pearson is not just sweeping all of these award seasons for Best Supporting Actor. He's so great, so good. And again, all the other extras are great, and also it feels very personal, because Schimberg has some experience with a facial deformity. He has a cleft palate, and I also really like how he casted people with actual facial disfigurements, not just Pearson. And he gives what few characters there are who are that way. He gives them dimension. He gives them some more. They're not just woe is them. They should feel bad for them. But they're people with lives and aspirations and stuff. And they just want and also the makeup on this effect is really good. Edward's disfigurement, it's interesting because it's clearly modeled after Adam Pearson, but it's not Adam Pearson. So when the real Adam shows up, it's a little oh right, yeah. And the way that it visualizes how the face, his face is cured, or it's kind of creepy too. It's sort of peeling away. He has this terrible knife where he's pulling away at his bloody skin. It looks like something out of The Thing. It's honestly creepy to look at, and it's dark, but also again it's still very funny, and it's funny, it's interesting, I was also really impressed by recurring motifs in it. There's a specific book that keeps getting brought up. There's a hole in Edward's ceiling that it feels very representative of how it's like a problem that Edward has to fix, but he can't really sum up the confidence to ask for help about it or anything. It's something that could be solved if he was sort of a different man. But sort of what is a different man when you're the same man, but just different. This movie honestly gives me a lot. Is still giving me a lot to chew on, a lot to think about perception, identity, how you see yourself, how others see you, and it's just a great, weird, and darkly hilarious movie about the cruel irony of getting everything you ever wanted and still not being happy. And pairs very well with The Substance, but at completely different tones. I gotta say, I think I like this just a little bit more. But that's just kind of a different flavor of what I'm looking for. And I really like this. I'm feeling a decent 9. This is one of my favorites of 2024. This was marvelous movie. Loved it. And I think that'll be it. I don't have much else to add. You really should see it yourself. It's streaming on Max, if you got it, and you really should check it out. Can't say another good word about it. I'll just be making up stuff to say about it. And that'll be it. That's my review. What did you think of A Different Man? Well, that's it. That's it for me. Comment, subscribe. I'm Zach. I like movies. I have a lot more movies to watch, and I hope you watch movies too, because movies are life. And I'll see you all next time. And I hope you take care of yourselves.